Hello, Angie Gerber here, and welcome to my podcast, Awareness. Once you know, you can't unknow. A place you can come to start thinking and shifting your thoughts to finally create the results you truly, truly desire. It'll shift your mindset and give you strategies to get out there and get it done. Let's get started. All right, welcome. Welcome to week 4 of Go Get Your Goals. We'll get just right into it. So, how has the first 3 weeks gone? Have you gone back and rewatched any of the videos? Because the truth is repetition is key. So, in order to impress this new information, or if it's not new information, you're more than likely hearing it in a different way. In order to really impress it upon your subconscious, repetition is key. So I encourage you to go back and go through the lessons. Again, this week we're on lesson 4. So just take it from there and really embrace this whole experience. And if you can watch, in between lessons, like next week's 5. So this week, watch this lesson 4 as many times as you can. And I promise you the impact will be great. I am. I hear this so often, and I even see people getting tattoos that say I am, just as a reminder, which I think is fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about who you are. A lot of people, when I say, well, who are you? The first thing we do is, I'm Angie. Well, the truth is that's your name. That's not who you are. Then the next thing would be, well, then I'm this, this is my body, this is me. Well, that's just your body. That's really not who you are. The essence of who you are is not your name, and it's definitely not your body. So who is it? You see, we simultaneously live on 3 different planes of understanding. The first being spiritual. So looking at your spiritual self. That is, there's so many different amazing teachings on spirituality. I had a coach once that called it GUS, God, Universe, Source, Spirit. So whatever kind of your connection to a higher power is. And the spirit inside of you, often one of our higher faculties is intuition. And that's actually your higher power guiding you through your intuition or talking to you. That's truly what intuition is, at least as I understand it to be. And then the second plane is intellectual. So we all have an intellect, and this is where we gather information and we learn. You only have to touch the hot stove once and you won't do it again. That's kind of what we've heard. And as a kid, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove. And 9 out of 10 times they touch the stove and they only do it once because you collect the data and the information and you learn from it. And then the third is your body. So we are a physical being. So we are spiritual being with an intellect. We can think and we live in this physical body. And you see, the mind is really what it comes down to, is your mind. Now, many people, when you ask them what the mind is, they'll say it's the brain. And the brain is not the mind. Even when I was putting these slides together for this presentation, I just tested it in Canva. I put mind, and almost all the pictures were of a brain, or where your brain would be in the head. And it was just really, really interesting, because that is the misconception, I guess, or just the perspective of many people, is that the mind is the brain. And that's not it at all. The mind is actually the most greatest and most powerful thing in all of creation. The mind can take you just about anywhere, along with your imagination, which is another higher faculty, which we'll get into those as well. And the truth is, the mind isn't all cells of your body. The mind, you are the mind. You are your mind. It's in all of you, in every part of you, in every atom, in every neuron, every connection, every your pinky, everywhere is your mind. And no one has ever seen the mind. And it's actually your mind that needs to be changed in order for you to get the different results. So breaking it down a little bit more from we are what we think about, our thoughts become things, or your results are a direct reflection of your results are a direct reflection of your thoughts. Absolutely. And the mind is so much of what controls all of it. And no one really understands this. And I know I didn't understand it until I was about 40 years old. And even when I was first introduced to this, I didn't get it. I mean, I got it. It was intriguing. It was interesting. It was enlightened me a little bit. And yet I had to study it again through repetition over and over and over again to hear it differently, to experience it differently, to have things happen in my environment that is like, oh, yeah, that's what they meant. So that again is why repetition is key. So keep watching things over and over again. If you find someone, if it's not me, find someone on YouTube that you resonate with, that you want to listen to, that teach in a certain way that is attractive to you and it feels right, because the truth is, the truth. You can feel the truth when you hear the truth. Like when I first met Bob Proctor, I knew with every cell in my body that I had to work with him, and I had no means to do it. And he said, you haven't made the decision. Once the decision is made, a way will be shown. And I figured out, probably within 24 hours, 48 at the most, how I was going to make it work. Because I knew I had to do it. I had to work with him. There was no other option. So when you have that burning desire and you accept it, then the way will be shown. And that's a lot with our mind. You see, so many people think they think, and truly people don't think at all. They're just going through their day. And many of the times we're, treating symptoms of our days, of our health, of our relationships. And we're not getting to the core of it. It could be symptoms in your business, again, relationship, health. It's not your whole person, it's just a symptom. So really knowing and understanding you will help you know and understand others better. So power energy is always flowing to and through us. So when I say that, and what I mean by that is, as energy is coming into your body and flowing through, the thoughts are already there. So you cannot create energy, you can't destroy it. The power is always present and it's always moving into form, out of form, through form. And you're one of those forms. And so, whatever thinking you already have in place is what is happening with your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your actions, and your results. So, that's why knowing how these thoughts and these paradigms and these beliefs are formed, and more importantly, how to switch them, is a big game changer and the key actually to getting from where you are to wherever it is you want to be. We've, really just been conditioned, to be quite honest, to live from our five senses. So I don't know about you, but when I was young and in school, probably kindergarten or first grade, this is what we learned in school: hear, see, smell, taste, touch. These are your five senses. And why they're called senses is because they're meant for you to sense the world around you. We were never meant to live by these. And yet we live by our five senses. We are conditioned to live from our five senses. So if you have to be able to touch it, and you got to be able to see it and hear it or taste it, for it to be real. And that's where, going back to your spiritual being, the spiritual side of you, we're so disconnected from that at a young age because we are conditioned to live from our five senses. and really make decisions that way. And if, I often say you can have fear or faith, you can't have both. You have to choose one, and you can't see either of them. So if you think about that and go to your spiritual side of it, it's really quite interesting that people are getting the results they're getting. And many of the times they're not what they exactly want. I always take debt, for example. If your bank account's not what you want it to be, maybe you're in debt. First of all, stop saying debt, as I always say, set a repayment program and focus on prosperity. But what people do is they see their bank account and they say, Angie, that's the reality. I have no money. How am I going to pay my mortgage? Quit saying this woo woo stuff, because it's not going to help me pay my bills. So this is where we're living from our five senses, that this is what we see, so this is our reality. And where I like to bring people is disconnecting from your current reality and thinking different thoughts, because your current reality and where you are today, regardless of if it's where you want to be or not, is a direct reflection of your thoughts and of how your mind is working and the paradigms and your habitual behavior. So you're just going to keep getting the same thing. That's why so many people lose weight, which first you want to release the weight, but they lose weight and they quickly find it and they put it back on. Or you might have a really good month or a really good year, and then you just go back to your old paradigms and your old behaviors, because you haven't switched out what needs to be switched out in order to set the new standard, set the new norm, because this is still your norm. So jumping into that more, think about going back to school. When I was younger, I remember this is when we did A, B, C, D, F. Yes. So those five. And now there's like I don't even know how to tell my kids report cards, honestly. It's either pass, fail, all these different things. But what my parents would do is I would get $10 for an A, $5 for a B, nothing for a C, $5 taken away for a D, and $10 taken away for a F. So I was really motivated. I mean, this was back in the 80s. So that was a lot of money back then for a younger kid. And the truth is that my report card at the time, or how I did on the test, was just a direct reflection of where I was at that very time in my life, or 3 weeks ago when I took the test or turned in the book report. And then the teachers would grade me and give my parents a report card. And then my parents were really happy, or they were really frustrated or upset or concerned. And the truth is that report card and those tests, I don't know about you, I don't remember any of it. I remember very little from elementary, junior high, and high school, as far as impactful moments that I learned from teachers, things that I still know to this day. Very little of the knowledge I have today and bring with me through life. It had nothing to do with my potential as a person and what my God-given gifts are, my purpose, my passion. It was just telling a story about where I was 3 weeks ago when I took a certain test. So, and we're not going to get into the education system in here, because that would be a whole different webinar and a whole different call. But think about that. It goes back to how we're living through our senses and how we're conditioned that way. And then we get a report card and we think we're good or we're not good, or you're really good at math or you really suck at math, or whatever it is. And then we build these beliefs about ourselves, and we feel good or we feel bad. And that is such a trajectory of where our life goes from there. And it really shouldn't be at all. So if you're a parent, I encourage you just to think about that. Think about your past and think about what you remember and what you take. A lot of times there could be some very key, great memories and points from school, but a lot of the people that I coach, it's trauma that they've brought forward, or being bullied, or making a huge mistake and being laughed at by their peers, or something that happened on a playground or a dance they went to. It really, really has nothing to do with, good. I passed that test back in fourth grade. So think about that and just know that it truly is, and where you're at today, maybe even what you went to college for, the degrees you got, unless it's a very specific, like a doctor, heart surgeon, or a certain part of the law where you need to know statute after statute and really understand. A lot of what people I know that went to school for aren't even using that because it didn't match their gifts and it wasn't what their purpose or passion was. And it had nothing to do with the potential. They just did something because they had to choose something because you have to choose a major and a minor to graduate. So I digress. Now this is where the rubber hits the road. Back in the 30s, George Thurman Fleet came up with something to explain the mind. So the mind, and I know you've seen this in past weeks, but focus on the stick figure. This is called the stick person. And if you think about it, your head could be the top full circle and your body is the rest. Now, that's not true again, because your mind is all parts of you. And just because we think in pictures, let's do this. So you have your conscious mind, which is your thinking mind, and your gathering information mind, and your subconscious mind is what causes us to act. And it brings your potential to the surface. That's where your intuitive hits happen. That's where you will need to make the change in order to change the results, is in your subconscious and emotional mind of your body. So this is just to show you the stick person of what this looks like in a picture. So how do you go from the stick person to the next spot? Again, it's through thinking differently. It's through a different awareness. It's through having these blinders on that so many people have on because they're not thinking, and peeling those back. Things happen all day, every day, throughout the day, and they're truly not good or bad things. It's how we label them and what we label them to be. I know Bob Proctor often talks about Dr. Ken McFarland, who he had mentioned and said he was one of the greatest speakers of all time, that, we become what we think about. And the truth is only 2% of people actually think. 3% think they think, and 95% would rather die than think. Meaning that you just go through your day. You get up and do what you do because that's what everyone does, or that's what you've been told to do, or I have to go to work, or I have to go do this because I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I should do this, and you should all over yourself. And the truth is that if you stopped and thought, or even if you listen to some people and what they say and what they do, the more you study this, and the more you study yourself, and the more you understand yourself, you'll realize that they're not thinking at all. And in order to change, you will need to understand yourself. And you'll need to understand this concept. You'll need to understand the mind and why you do what you do. And really stop and think. I know many of the people I coach and talk to, I tell them to put a rubber band around their wrist. And when they get triggered or think a thought that puts them in a lower vibration or what, snap it. And it's kind of like snap out of it. Because what you have to do is you have to take these years and years and years. And if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you've been living from this part of your mind and these paradigms and habitual behaviors and things that happened to you by the time you were 7 years old. That's where a lot of your decisions have come from. That's where a lot of your worth has come from. That's where, a lot of, once you were told something, it's where you act from. And I heard the other day, and it was just so brilliant. Trauma, and a lot of us, most everyone has gone through trauma in some way, shape, or form. Trauma is not what happens to you. It's what happens inside of you. So it's going inside of you and actually facing it, looking at it, calling it. And then there's just different exercise and there's different things you can do to work through that trauma. A lot of people hire a therapist or hire a great coach or a mentor to help them unpack all this, because we all have our stuff. Everyone, every single person that you come in contact with is fighting their own battle. And it's hard, and no one's without it. So it's really just thinking about how you can start unlocking your genius and really getting from where you are to the top of your passion, your purpose, what you are here to do, and what you're here to fulfill. Because the more you are aware and the more you know, you can't unknow it. And that's why my podcast is called Awareness. Once you know, you can't unknow, because you can't. So it's when you're thinking. And what I mean by thinking is, and I talked about this morning at another meeting I was just at, I used to listen to the radio all the time, because especially talk radio, I just thought they were so funny. I wanted to hear how this went and that went. And it's almost like they were part of my family. I don't know. That might be taking a little bit too far, but I really kind of knew them and they're funny, and it just made the drive a whole lot better. Or, a lot of times people are just coming home from work and just watching TV because they deserve it, because they had a hard day and they just want to unwind. Well, if you even started with 10% less and started listening to a podcast that will expand you, or doing something with your mindset, or watching these videos over and over, or finding a YouTube video, and start getting to know yourself better, you'll be astonished by the changes that can happen. Because when you're just sitting on the couch and binging TV or listening to the radio instead of a really good podcast, you're actually listening to or watching someone else live out their passion and purpose and fulfill their dreams of being an actor, or being on the radio and having a whole city listen to them, or even further now with all the technology. So what can you do to start thinking and start knowing yourself better and hearing things differently and getting into your mind and thinking about getting out of your five senses and living on part of the spirituality side of you, the intellectual side of you. And, we do live in the physical body. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We cannot swivel our head 360 degrees. We're not, that's the human aspect of us. But there's so much more to us than just getting up and doing what we do because that's what we do, because that's what you do. Because you're not thinking. You're not thinking of how this can be different. So that's where it's so, so very important to get a good mentor or coach that can help you understand this, unpack this. And that's where your quantum leaps can happen a lot quicker. And that's where you can get from where you are to where you want to be a lot quicker. I'll always have a coach, because we all have blinders on and we all can do better than we're doing now. No matter where you're at, you can do better. We're meant for expansion. And it's just having a good coach or mentor that is in the spirit of what it is you want to attain, or they've done what you intend to do. That will definitely get you there so much quicker, because they can take their experiences, they can take the blinders off a lot quicker than what would take you 10 years can be done in a year or less with someone who really knows what they're doing. So I encourage you, find someone. I'm absolutely happy and open to helping in any way. And as I've said from the beginning, this is a pay what you want, when you want, if you want. So feel free. You can Venmo me if you want to make a contribution. I do this because I'm giving it away for this last quarter of the year, because I think it's so important for people to have this information. And my hope is that you do want to dive in deeper. And again, with me, if not with me, find someone that you can really jive with, or that you just like how they deliver information. It expands you, it excites you, it ignites and lights something up in you, because you'll find your purpose and passion, and better yet, it will find you. You just have to allow the space and be open and ready and able to receive it. So I thank you all for coming and being here today. And if you are watching the repeat and the replay, feel free to leave any comments, subscribe, whether you listen to this on the podcast or YouTube, like the video, share it, send it to someone that can use it, because everyone can use this. This information is very important. I know it drastically changed my whole life. And that's all I want for other people, is just to have a different awareness, perspective, perception shift, and just know that once you start thinking and really understanding yourself, a whole new world and universe is now at your fingertips. And it is the coolest experience ever. And I want everyone here to experience it, because it's beautiful and everyone should have the opportunity. So until next week, again, any questions, let me know. I'm here and happy to help, and go get your goals.
Thanks for spending some time with me today. And if you like what you heard, feel free to share, like, subscribe, follow, do whatever it is you do. I'd love to get this out to as many people as possible, because it truly all does start with awareness. Once you know, you cannot unknow, and it changes everything. And of course, if I can help in any way, I'm here and happy to do so. Until next time, make it a good one.